Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast. Let's wrap up week 38 with Second Age Saturday. Now, this series we've been reading about the adventures of Aldarion from Unfinished Tales. Last week, we spent most of our time watching King Tar-Meneldor try to talk a little sense into his increasingly prideful son. We also watched as Erendis deleted her dating apps and decided it's him or no one, something that Aldarion's mom, Queen Almarion, not only took note of, but used to connive and scheme. And we're going to pick up right after she's told Meneldor that Erendis is already in love with their son. Now, when the great ship Palarin was built, Aldarion would depart once more. At this, Meneldor became wrathful, though by the persuasions of the queen he would not use the king's power to stay him. Here must be told of the custom that when a ship departed from Numenor over the great sea to Middle-earth, a woman, most often of the captain's kin, should set upon the vessel's prow the Green Bough of Return, and that was cut from the tree Oyolaire, that signifies ever-summer, which the Eldar gave to the Numenorians, saying that they set it upon their own ships in token of friendship with Osse and Uinen. The leaves of that tree were evergreen, glossy, and fragrant, and it throve upon sea air. But Meneldor forbade the queen and the sisters of Aldarion to bear the bough of Oyolaire to Romenna, where lay the Palarin, saying that he refused his blessing to his son, who was venturing forth against his will. And Aldarion, hearing this, said, "If I must go without blessing or bough, then so I will go." Then the queen was grieved, but Erendis said to her, "Tarinya, if you will cut the bough from the elven tree, I will bear it to the haven by your leave, for the king has not forbidden it to me." The mariners thought it an ill thing that the captain should depart thus, but when all was made ready and men prepared to weigh anchor, Erendis came there, little though she loved the noise and bustle of the great harbor and the crying of the gulls. Aldarion greeted her with amazement and joy, and she said, "I have brought you the bough of return, lord, from the queen." "From the queen?" said Aldarion, in a changed manner. "Yes, lord," said she, "but I asked for her leave to do so. Others beside your own kin will rejoice at your return, as soon as may be." At that time, Aldarion first looked on Erendis with love, and he stood long in the stern looking back as the Palarin passed out to sea. It is said that he hastened his return and was gone less time than he had designed. And coming back, he brought gifts for the queen and the ladies of her house. But the richest gift he brought for Erendis, and that was a diamond. Cold now were the greetings between the king and his son, and Meneldor rebuked him, saying that such a gift was unbecoming in the king's heir unless it were a betrothal gift, and he demanded that Aldarion declare his mind. "In gratitude I brought it," said he, "for a warm heart amid the coldness of others." "Cold hearts may not kindle others to give them warmth at their goings and comings," said Meneldor. And again he urged Aldarion to take thought of marriage, though he did not speak of Erendis. But Aldarion would have none of it, for he was ever and in every course the more opposed as those about him urged it. And treating Erendis now with greater coolness, he determined to leave Numenor and further his designs in Vinilonde. Life on land was irksome to him, for aboard his ship he was subject to no other will, and the venturers who accompanied him knew only love and admiration for the great captain. But now Meneldor forbade his going, and Aldarion, before the winter was fully gone, set sail with a fleet of 7 ships and the greater part of the venturers in defiance of the king. The queen did not dare incur Meneldor's wrath, but at night a cloaked woman came to the haven bearing a bough, and she gave it into the hands of Aldarion, saying, "This comes from the Lady of the Westlands," for so they called Erendis, and went away in the dark. Now, the heart of today's brief discussion is this Green Bough of Return, this traditional symbol brought by a woman usually related to the captain, and set on the prow of a Numenorian vessel in hopes of the vessel's safe return. The text tells us that the leaves of that tree were evergreen, glossy, and fragrant, and it throve upon sea air. The footnote for that section also directs us to a description of the island of Numenor, where we read this beautiful passage. At the center of the Bay of Eldanna was the most beautiful of all the havens of Numenor, Eldalonde the Green, and hither, in the earlier days, the swift white ships of the Eldar of Erendis came most often. All about that place, up the seaward slopes and far into the land, grew the evergreen and fragrant trees that they brought out of the west, and so throve there that the Eldar said that almost it was fair as a haven in Erendis. They were the greatest delight of Numenor, and they were remembered in many songs long after they had perished forever, for few ever flowered east of the land of gift. Oyolaire and Lyrolosse, Nessamelda, Vardarianna, Tanequilasse, and Yavannamire, with its globed and scarlet fruits. Flower, leaf, and rind of those trees exuded sweet scents, and all that country was full of blended fragrance. Therefore it was called Nisimaldar, the fragrant trees. Many of them were planted and grew, though far less abundantly, in other regions of Numenor. But only here grew the mighty golden tree Malanorne, reaching after 5 centuries a height scarce less than it achieved in Erendis itself. Now, that is, of course, the Malorn tree, but what I want to draw our attention to are these beautiful, fragrant evergreens that are lost to Middle-earth, one of which is used in today's ceremony as Aldarion departed. Now, Walter and Graham Judd in Flora of Middle-earth observe that since these trees are unique to J.R.R. Tolkien's Legendarium and are not described in detail, the task of providing technical identifications is problematic. Even with that, though, they go on to suggest that these trees were likely members of the Lauraceae family, as those have both aromatic bark and evergreen leaves, often with small white flowers. Also in this story tonight, we have the moment where Aldarion finally looks at Erendis with love and begins to bring gifts to her. Never mind that he doesn't listen to his father's advice regarding the intent behind the gifts. And thanks to his father's urgings to consider marriage, even though he doesn't name Erendis, Aldarion starts treating Erendis with greater coolness and leaves. Despite the king forbidding his departure, he goes with 7 ships and full crews of the Venturers. We're going to see how that works out next week. For now, folks, that does it for today's Second Age Saturday. Thank you for joining me, and please come back next week as Aldarion is gone for longer than ever before, Erendis goes home, and his haven of Vignalonde is wrecked. Please visit patreon.com/TolkienTimes to learn how you can support the show, get an ad-free feed, join my content council, get a bonus episode every week, and more. And please, if you're watching this on YouTube, you know the drill by now, like and subscribe. And please follow or subscribe in your podcast apps, and follow @TolkienTimes on social media. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.